This is Manu Kalia, physical therapist and Ayurvedic herbalist. So today's video, I wanted to show you guys about a proper sitting posture. And since most of us spend so much time sitting, and an average person spends about 8-10 hours a day, probably even more, in sitting at work, driving, and throughout the day. So I think this sets up a lot of problems, low back issues, neck problems, shoulder issues, even hip-related things, and in addition to other health problems. So this video is to kind of give you an idea about some strategies to get a better posture, more efficient ways of sitting in my view, and also to go over some of the traditional ways that people are taught to sit up or sit in a better posture, and what I think works and what I don't think works as well. The problem that most people run into is that we're just not designed to sit for hours and hours in a static postures and static positions. And so if you are sitting for long periods of time in these static postures, it's going to set up all sorts of problems. So ranging from neck-related issues to shoulder problems, to low back issues, to hip problems. So it's just not possible for most people to maintain an upright or better posture in sitting for prolonged periods of time, unless you're aware of your positioning, you're strong enough to hold those positions, and but which most people don't tend to be. You get busy with work, and after a while, regardless of the type of chair you could have the best chair with the most amount of adjustments or supports. So and as most people are taught to sit all the way back to maintain this upright position, regardless of all these things, eventually the person ends up getting in these rounded postures when they're working. So, and there are various reasons for that, but it's just not, in my experience, most people are not able to maintain those good postures when they're sitting in chairs, and especially in the traditional way of sitting. So when you tell people to sit all the way back and you have your feet flat, keep your shoulders relaxed, eventually the person, in my experience, is going to start rounding and slumping, and that's going to set up a host of problems. So ranging from the shoulders being constantly in these forward positions where you'll get tightness in the pec muscles, you might get weakness in the shoulder girdle muscles. You're going to have more stress and strain on your neck. You're constantly in this forward head posture where you have compression going on at the upper part of the neck, which is not good, resulting in headaches or, for that matter, neck-related problems. And I've treated a lot of patients with nerve-related issues coming because of being in these poor positions and postures. And then further down the chain, low back is constantly in this rounded posture. And as well as sitting in these positions, for if you sit long enough, you're going to have a lot of tightness in that hip too. So it just sets up imbalances throughout the whole chain. So I think a better way of sitting, since we have to sit for X amount of hours at work, and most of us do in these days, is to, instead of sitting back all the way into the chair and getting into these rounded positions, a much better way in my experience would be to work at scooting forward to the edge of your chair. So we'll do it in 2-3 different steps. So the first thing I think works better is scooting to the edge of the chair, not sitting back to support your back against this. Okay, so that's the first step. So what that's going to do is, when I bring myself forward, so scooting forward brings more of my weight onto my legs. Okay, so more of my weight is onto my legs. That's where I want my weight, because my legs are my big muscles. So I want my weight forward. And the second thing it does is it allows me to shift my weight forward a bit easier, especially when I bring my feet wider apart. Most people tend to sit with their feet together, and that makes it a lot harder for the pelvis to maintain upright position. Right? So your pelvis continues to roll back. When my feet are together, it's a lot harder for the pelvis to come forward and for me to maintain that upright position. And it'll easily roll back, or it takes more effort to maintain this position. So you're constantly doing this, and you find people, they'll hang out here, they'll work for 15-20 minutes, and they eventually slump down in this position, and then they'll work at straightening up. So they're constantly arching their back, going back and forth, and eventually that starts to irritate the low back, sometimes the mid back. So a better option to allow that pelvis to set better so the rest of the spine sits better on top of it would be to have my feet wider apart. So when I bring my feet wider apart, what it does is, I'm going to scoot back a little so you can get a better idea. So I'm essentially going from this position, I'm bringing my feet wider apart. What it does, it allows my pelvis to roll forward. So my pelvis rolls forward, it's a lot easier, it automatically puts me in a better posture and better position. As opposed to being here, it is harder in this position to maintain that upright position. The pelvis wants to roll back, and bringing my feet wider apart, opening up my hips, allows that pelvis to roll forward much easier. Okay, so you're seeing a lot of the yogis or monks and meditators, they sit in the cross-legged positions. It's a very stable position, and it sets up a good posture of the spine on top of your pelvis. This is my base. If my base is not set right, nothing on top will be set right. So if I set my base right, it allows my spine to be set up properly, in better posture, better alignment, and which allows my head to sit in a better position and posture too. So, let's say if you have neck problems or you have shoulder-related issues, you can keep working at correcting these things, but unless I correct the base, where the bottom part of the whole circuit, unless I correct that base, this is never going to sit up properly. Okay, so we did a couple of things. We scooted forward, right? Brought our feet wider apart, because that makes it a lot easier for me to sit up in this position. And the other thing I think that's really important is to raise the chair so your hips are higher than your knees. So what I would do is I would raise my chair as high as I can. So what that does is right away, it tilts my pelvis forward because my hips are higher than my knees. It's a lot easier to sit up straight in this position with my hips being higher than my knees than bring my chair down all the way, right? So now my hips are about in line with my knees, so it takes more effort to sit up straight in this position as opposed to bringing the chair up, because my weight, it's making my weight go forward, so more of the weight is on my legs, my big muscles, okay? So much less pressure on my spine. So this is a very comfortable position because I shouldn't have to work hard, you want to work smart, okay? You want to be more efficient. So you shouldn't have to, throughout the day, constantly have to work on getting in these upright positions. It should automatically set you up in a better position so you're relaxed, and then you can bring your chair forward closer to your keyboard or whatever else you're doing so you're in a better position. Of course, you're going to have to adjust the monitor a bit too, because since you brought the chair up, it's going to require that you raise the screen up so you're your eye level with the monitor too. Otherwise, you're going to be looking down. So keep in mind of those things, and I would recommend that you go and experiment with your own positioning. So I don't think the traditional way of doing things, where you're sitting all the way back in your chair and trying to with back support, trying to maintain this position, works that well. I mean, think about meditators, yogis, monks who sit in cross-legged positions for hours in great posture, and they're able to maintain those positions. They don't have back supports. So some of it is awareness, some of it is positioning and putting yourself in a better posture so that your body has better alignment. Okay, you're giving it the right environment to start off right, to get a better environment, to maintain that better posture so you don't have to work too hard. Okay, so make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, leave a comment. You can shoot me an email too. And keep checking on the site. The knee recovery program is coming up next month. We're launching. So if you're interested, make sure you go and sign up. Thanks.